And welcome back to the Crochet Caron. So it's my friends at yarnspirations.com. I'm your host, Mikey. We have a three-dimensional star for you today. It's a blanket. I think it has the potential to take all the ribbons at a craft fair. Why don't they just give them to you if you do this work? This one has a potential to really be something that you can be very proud of at the end. There's 136 motifs. They are all identical to each other, and it's the way that they're positioned that gives it the look, and they are three-dimensional. Throughout the whole video, I'm going to be sharing tips with you, and we have video chapters, rounds number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can fast forward if you need to once you understand the process. And then I'm going to show you how these things are joined, and then there's a simple border at the very end. So what are you waiting for? Let's get started and head on into the studio. It's a beautiful day here. It's a beautiful day here in Nova Scotia on this November day, and we have this three-dimensional star. See how it's popping up? That is legitimately what's going to happen with this. The way that this designed is that it has a popping up nature to it. It is a triangle, and the way that the ribbing takes effect is going to be quite awesome as it comes together. So every one of the motifs, as you just saw, has one side of one color, the same color on the other, and then the final side is a different color. And when you puzzle these things together, it gives it the look. So if you match the idea together, you can see how they are going to go together just like that. So this particular pattern has a total of 4 pages. Now that doesn't mean it's all writing. So we have the instructions, rounds number 1 through 6, and then the finishing is going to be a flat stitch join, which I will demonstrate, and then there's a simple border that's added to it, which I will tell you about that when we get there, and then you can add tassels if you want. Finally, on page number 3, there's a crochet diagram if you would like to do that. I'm going to give you some extra tips to be able to help yourself so that you don't get lost in the pattern. And then finally, the last page has the assembly, so they want you to seam. Julia wants you to seam in one direction and then seam in the other, and seaming down here. Okay, so there's 3 directions in which you're going to go. When you are seaming colors together, if it is a gray, you are going to use the gray yarn to be able to seam it together to keep it seamless. Okay, that's just how it works. So when you look at it, if you use all the same color when you do the seams, when it crosses over the white, then if you were using red, there would be red tops. So it's a really neat way to be able to tackle this particular project. You'll need a 6.5mm size K crochet hook and a total of 5 balls of claret of Caron 1 pound and 2 balls of off-white with Caron 1 pound as well. Let's begin. So let's take a look at the diagram, and what we have here is that we're going to start off with the claret color, the reddish color, and we're going to do 2 sides of it, and then the third side is going to switch over to the off-white. In my case, it'll be gray, and we're going to do that, and then we turn the project and we go back in the other direction. So this is very much like a grafghan, so this particular side is always going to be gray. So whenever we pass through it, we have to only use that color. So we leave one color behind, we do it, and then we come back. So this is the ends and starts of a round. So it becomes really easy. The other thing that you can really rest assured that it's really easy, the first stitch out after a corner is always a back post double crochet. So that's always going to be true. So if you're ever working on this and you start to go out of a side and you realize that it doesn't look the same because the ribbing is not being maintained, there's something wrong in your stitch counts. And where you could be going wrong, which I noticed with myself during the practice, is that I can sometimes miss the first double crochet that goes right into a corner, and I just jump in and I start doing the back post. So if that's a miss for you, just make sure that you're keeping that on. You're going to notice pretty quickly if something is wrong, and because these are not very big, you might need to frog back, which means to rip it. Let's go and start this project. My first tip to you is to have a spare piece of yarn, and I want to be able to put it onto the project and leave it onto the project so that you know what is the right side of this. When it says to join the right sides together, if you don't have that and you have it flipped the other way, you might just accidentally put these on backwards from each other. So leave the stitch marker on in place, then the first round. Let's begin. So let's begin. We are going to create a slip knot. And I need you to chain 3 with this color. So it's the red color. So 1, 2, 3. The color that I'm using on camera is called Country Rose. Once you have the 3, you're going to insert your hook into the beginning chain and yarn over it and pull through and through. And this will be the starting round of your triangle. And now let's move to round number 1. So I'm going to take my time going through this. Again, there's video chapters if you want to fast forward. So you're going to chain 3 to begin, and this will count as your first double crochet. And the starting sides of all of them, there's only 5 double crochet. So if this is 1, you're going to put 4 more double crochet into the center of the ring. Go right up over top of the straggler to bury it underneath so that you don't have to sew that in later. It will get naturally stuck inside the project. So there is considered 2 now. So the chain 3 plus those 1 is now 2. You need a total of 5. So there's another double crochet, and then another one, and then another one. Please make sure there's 5 or the rest of your triangle is going to be screwed up. Okay, so we're going to turn our corner, and when we turn, because we're not changing color, we're going to chain 2 and come back into the center of the ring and apply 5 more double crochets with that same color. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now the final side, and I'm just pulling the straggler so it's nice and taut. The final side, we're going to introduce the next color. So what I would recommend to you, so that it doesn't fall out on you, is to create a slip knot with the next color that you would like to do, and the color in the pattern is off-white. Create a slip knot and let it hold. And when you start this next corner, you're going to chain 1 with this color, and then let it hold to the back behind the project, and insert the slip knot on, pull it to the hook, and pull through. So that will count as a chain 2. So the first chain 1 was claret, the second one is the gray. You're going to finish the final side. A recommendation is just put this down. Do not interfere with the claret color, and just put this down so it's over top of the ring, just like this. And you are going to double crochet a total of 5 times into the center of the ring. Now the first time you do it, you might have this as being really sloppy looking. You can fix that later, because when you come back around, you can make that taut again. So you have 1 in there, and I'm just pulling the loose end here, and you're going to do a total of 5 times. So we have 2, 3, 4, and just pull it if you need more space, so just reef on it and do the 5th one. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you're going to do a half double crochet join to the first chain, top of the chain 3. So yarn over and in to the top, pull through and pull through, and pull at the hook, and do not turn this thing over. Get that spare piece of yarn that was part of my tip, and I want you just to insert it here onto the front side. So this will be considered the right side of the work. So it's the front of the blanket. And just fold it in half and bring it through, and bring the 2 ends through. And you'll remove this when you're putting things together. But when you see this, you're always going to be knowing it's the right side of the work. Pull this back together. If you went over top of the stragglers like I did, then what you can do is safely trim it down. I came back with scissors. I left it on my computer desk. Okay, so we're going to trim that down, and now we're ready for round number 2. And in order to start round number 2, we're going to turn the whole project. So we're looking at the right side of the work. We're going to turn it around and start with the gray coming up over top of this, and then it'll be claret for the other 2. Let's begin round number 2. I'm looking at the wrong side of the work because I do not see the stitch marker. The very last round number 6, I will be crocheting it, and I will not be able to see that stitch marker. So you're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. So the first stitch out always is going to be a back post double crochet around the first post. To do that, yarn over and come from the back and take that post back with you to the back side. Yarn over, pull through 2 and 2. So the first one will always be a double crochet back post. The next one will always be a double crochet front post. So yarn over and into the side of the post and back out on the front side. pull through 2 and 2. So that's a double crochet front post. So you're going to alternate between the two of those all the way through the side. So the next one is a back post. And I will give you a little tip in just a second. The next one has to be a front post. So the stitch just before the corner always will be a back post double crochet. And that's just a matter of keeping in sync with how it looks. And where you can go wrong is right now. So this is a corner. So just pull it nice and taut, and you are going to put in a double crochet in the corner. So don't forget to do that, because that's where you'll go wrong. So now we have to switch back to this color. So we have to chain 1 first, and then just use your hands and just put it out towards the back and pick up the yarn that's holding and chain 1 to complete the second chain of a corner. Double crochet into the same corner space. And you can tighten up things when you come back around, or you can tighten it up now. So just grabbing that other color, just tightening it, but it doesn't really matter until you come back over. So what is the first stitch after a corner? Always will be a back post double crochet. Okay, the next one is a front post. So I'm going to keep the camera going. I have a feeling that there's going to be people that are relatively new to crochet that are going to love this blanket. And so I'll just keep the camera going and you can crochet along with me. And there's video chapters if you would like to skip ahead. Okay, so then the last one always has to be a back post double crochet in order to keep the sequence. And then you're on a corner. So the corner will always be a double crochet right into the space, chain 2, and double crochet back in. And we're not changing the color on this, so we're going to keep on going. So what is the first stitch out of a corner? Yeah, it's a back post double crochet. And so the next one has to be a front post. We do have a catalog of stitches here on the channel for those that need to see more details on anything regarding crochet. And then we come to our last one here. This is a back post double crochet. And what do we need to do to finish the round? We have to make sure that we double crochet in the final one. And you will see a bit of a peekaboo color, so that's normal. And you are going to join it with a half double crochet join to the top of the first chain 3. So this is the top of the first stitch. So we need to go to the top of the chain. And we're going to pull through and pull through all 3. And we simply just turn the work. If your yarn is tangling, now's the time to untangle it as you go. And so that was round number 2, and we're starting round number 3 in a moment. So round number 3, we're back on the right side of the work, and I can see that by the stitch marker, and we're going to chain 3. So with the color that you use to join with will be the same color that you use to go back. So that counts as the first double crochet that's in that space. And so what is the first stitch after a corner? Yeah, it's a back post. Okay, and so that means the next one is it's a front post. And you're gonna see a ribbing effect starting to take effect. So if you, for example, are wrong and then you see how this is back and behind and then you suddenly make that a front post, you know something is wrong. So use that as a key for visual effects. Okay, so I'm gonna be quiet until the corner. The last one before a corner is always a double crochet back post. And then your corner, because it's not changing, will be a double crochet, chain 2, and a double crochet. Okay, what's the next side? What will it be? Yeah, it's back post to start. And then a front post, and I'll be quiet until the next corner. The last one before corner is a back post. And you can see that we're about to change color. So before we do that, in the corner space, there has to be a double crochet with this color. And then chain one only, drop it, use your fingers and hold it behind and pull up the next color, pull it taut and pull through to create a chain one with the new color so it's ready. You'll double crochet into the same corner and complete the final side. Yes, it's going to be a back post. I was worried about this pattern when I first started, that I'm thinking that every round is going to be unique, but in case it's the same, it's just bigger. So the last one before a corner has to be a back post double crochet. And this is where it's going to end. So you have to put in a double crochet into the corner and then join it with a half double crochet to the top of the first chain three. And then you're going to turn your work and you're going to notice it's going to start belling out, which is good. So turn it around and let's go for round number 4. Round number 4, using the same color, you're going to chain 3. That counts as the first double crochet in this space. So the first one that goes out of a side, yeah, it's going to be a back post. Meaning the next one's got to be a front post, and you're going to alternate, and I'll be quiet until the next corner. You should know this is the 4th time I'm making this, so I'm finding myself much faster because I understand the pattern, and that'll happen to you as well. Okay, the one before the corner is always a back post. Okay, and the corner is here, so just double crochet into the corner, chain 1, and we're about to switch the color. So pull this taut, put this in behind, and chain 1 through here. And we can tighten that up later or tighten it now, it depends on you. And you're going to double crochet with that color in the same corner. So what is going to be the first one out? Yeah, it's a back post. Meaning the next one is a front post. Okay, I'll stay quiet into the next corner. The one before a corner is always a back post. So then we have a corner, it's not changing color, so it'll be a double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet in the same corner. And the first one, yeah, it's a back post. Next one's front. The last one is a back post. And this is where we started. So we're going to put in a double crochet. And then you were going to do a half double crochet join to the top of the first, or sorry, half double crochet join to the top of the first chain 3. So if you're ever confused, let's give you some advice. If you're ever confused, see how the color's over here? This means if the color was here, then I would be continuing with that color, but because it's over here, it means that I finished the round. So that here was the round. If you're ever confused on what round you're on, you can count the spaces. So the first is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 4 rounds have been completed. Turn your work and let's do round number 5. Number 5. So we're going to chain 3. And the first one out, yeah, it's going to be a back post. So that chain 3 counts as the double crochet in a corner. So the next one has to be a front post, and we'll do this all the way to the next corner. The one before is always a back post double crochet. Do your corner, we're not changing color, so it'll be a double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. A new side, start with the back post. Noticing the stitch marker is on the right side of the work, which confirms I'm on round number 5 as well. So the odd numbers like 1, 3, and 5, the stitch marker will always be on the front of the work, the right side. Okay, the last one before a corner is always a back post double crochet. Let's get this out of the way. So we're going to switch over soon, so we've got to put a double crochet in first for a corner, chain 1, let it hold to the back, and grab the next color up, pull taut, chain 1, and then in the same space another double crochet with the new color, and then complete the final side. So it'll be a back post double crochet, and so on. And I'll see you at the end in a second. I'll just keep on going. We're doing the last back post double crochet. Don't forget the final corner. So you're going to double crochet, and then you're going to do a half double crochet join to the top of the first chain 3. Okay, let's turn our work and do round number 6. Round number 6 is our final, and you should not be able to see the right side of the work because you're on the wrong side. So you start off by chaining 3, and I'm going to give you a tip after this color is done. So that counts as the first one. So the next one out has to be a back post double crochet, and then front post. And let's get ourselves to the first corner. So I was noticing that I was getting my yarn tangled a little bit, and so I want to give you a piece of advice at the end of this first corner, because this is the last time you'll be using gray. Okay, so that you'll go into the corner, you'll double crochet, and then chain 1, pull taut, let it drop, and pull up the next color. So chain 1 and then double crochet in. So because this is the final of that color, once the first double crochet is in, leave a little bit of a longer strand, but you can safely cut that now, get it out of your way, so the remaining of this will just be the one color, just in case you're having a tangling issue. So the first one out, it's got to be a back post. So the thing that I appreciate about this the most is that because there's only 6 rounds, if there is any tangling of the yarn, it's not a big deal because it's just a small little thing in your hands. And you can cut your work at the middle, or sorry, at the beginning of the 6th round almost, and let it be free after you've used a final color. So the one before corner is what? Yeah, it's always a back post. And then your corner is 1 double crochet, and you're not changing colors, so it's chain 2 and double crochet in. And then you start with another side, it's the final side. So back post, front post. I think once you come to understand this pattern, if it was hard for you the first time around, just keep on trying another one and then another one, and you'll find yourself understanding the pattern more and more, that you'll probably be able to fly through these pretty easily. Last one is a back post double crochet, and don't forget to put a double crochet in the final corner, and you need to join it with a half double crochet join to the top of the first chain 3. And then that ends your journey. So before you continue, you're going to trim your work. And I'd recommend that you use a tapestry needle and get rid of all your tail ends, because you're going to have 136 of these. So what I recommend is that you are looking at the back side of the work now, because the front side is labeled. So to do that, I'd recommend that you keep it to the back of the work before you flip it over, and get rid of any of the tail ends. So just go through the tail ends, keeping the yarn needle on the back of the project. Don't just go between the strands, cut this plies also, because it makes it very difficult to fall out if you do that. And pull on it, but don't change the shape, and go back in the opposite direction. And then finally back one more time. So you got to do it 3 times as a magic number for this. And once you have that done, you can safely be done with that. So any loose ends, so the other color really is not secured yet, it's just holding. So you're going to want to get this other color and secure that in, because that's just holding. And again, just go along the same color. Okay, so I'm not diving in so deep that it's going right through the project. Okay, and so back in the opposite direction. Don't be afraid to split up the plies. It helps if you actually have the yarn on the needle too. So I would get used to, at the end of each one of these motifs, to do this, because if you have 136 times 2 tail ends, that's a lot. Once you have all the tail ends secured, flip it over. You can see the right side of the work and leave this in, and when you're ready to put this together, you'll know what side is facing up. So let's talk about the assembly. So let's go through this strategy. So you're going to do seaming line number 1. So you'll do all of this and you go in this direction. So if you look at the assembly here, you're going to notice is that you got 2 red sides and a white. So here you would have just match the look. So it'll be looking like this. And so they want you to seam this here. So the opposite one would then be like this, going here. Now, because the color is gray, they want you to use the gray color to be able to seam this. So you're always gonna seam with the same color that is in the particular motif. So if it changes over, so for example, you're doing the next one, you have a white here that's seaming together, so you'll use your white or your gray in my case, and then you'll switch over and do the red for the next two that will come together, and you're gonna work your way over there. Eventually you'll have it all joined in one direction, and then you will come and start on this side and start joining here. So this here is going to put all of the squares or all of the motifs together for the first time, and then here it's going to then go in the other one, and then you're going to go all the way down with the same color. So you want to maintain the colors when they're doing that, and that's going to be a flat stitch join. If you prefer to sew it, that's up to you. The flat stitch join is just a faster way of doing it if you prefer. So let's begin to do a flat stitch join and show you how that's done. So the first step of joining these things together is that if it's facing out like this, like a bowl shape, I want you to flip it so that the right side of it is sinking down into the project. So take your pieces and just put them like a bowl shape so that it's facing up like a bowl. You're then going to examine the diagram and determine which sides go together. So you can see that the gray sides go together, so you want to match the color in order to make that work. And so whenever you're doing those kind of things, so I'm not going to use the gray color to join something when it's like this with the reds coming here. I want to make sure that the color is always going to be the same. So you're going to take your yarn strand coming from the yarn ball, and you're going to do what is called as a flat stitch join. If you prefer to do sewing, then still keep it in the orientation coming up. So I'll show you the gray. So you're going to go in and you're going to go into the first corner piece of the back loop only. So it's the loop that's furthest away from you. And then in this one here, it's the back loop, and it's going to be in this direction right here. So it's right here. It's kind of popping out already. And you're going to go straight down into those two together. Don't create a slip knot, but all you're just going to do is just pull through the loops here and here. And this is a flat stitch join, so it's going to blend in completely and be invisible, and let the loose end just fall to the back, and keep this will always come from the back. So you're going to go to the next back loop here and the next back loop here. So this is my second take doing this because I never flipped these to the opposite direction. I had a really, really hard time, to the point where I wanted to quit. So now that the orientation is proper with the bowl shape, it's so much easier to do. Okay, so you just keep moving down and just make sure that the yarn strand does not impede into the work. It takes a bit of practice, so don't quit on yourselves, especially if you got 136 of these already done. So you have to examine that diagram to make sure that the sides are going together perfectly. And now that the edges are facing up, it's going to be a lot easier to tell what will be next. Okay, so you just keep on joining. So if the piece after the join is the same color, then you are just going to continue the yarn. But if it's the other color of here, you're going to have to end this and start with a new color so that you don't impede on the colors. I think I'm repeating myself at this point. You will not believe how much easier it is to do once that I flipped the bowl shape. So it wasn't until I got close to the end of the video that I realized that all the centers should have been downward. And once I got that into my head, I realized that I had done it wrong, but also it's a lot harder to do the way that I did it. So if you prefer to sew these things together, you're still going to use the back loops only, because it's going to create that join that is seamless. So if the color is the same where you want to do the next one, you're just going to keep it going. Okay, and in my case, the orientation for the next one will continue to be grays that will come together. So you grab your next two, and you just continually go across. And then at the end, all you're just going to do is secure in your ends. So you got to make sure that you're always going from the right angle. So be consistent, always choose the same order of how you're going in. And because you're jumping, you're going to want to make sure that the first jump is tight, so it doesn't create any extra gaps. And so you just continue along this side. When you get to the end of a stretch of a color, and etc., and you need to end, then all you're just going to do is just stop, and you are going to pull this through, and just use your tapestry needle, and just like you did with the other motif of going back and forth, turn it over and just weave it through the back end right here. Just go back and forth a total of 3 times and get rid of that out of your way. So by just kind of folding it down like this, you can see it. So in this case, if I'm on the top corner, I have to put this section together here, and then I can demonstrate how to do the border using the points and the sinking in pieces, just like you see. So I will put this together here, and then I'll show you the border. So I'm gonna level with you. I had a hard time putting this thing together because I have a hard time looking at the flat instructions and etc. So I really had to study the pattern to realize that how it's going to be flipping up. And so once I started putting this together, I understand how it's going together now. So if you are at the process where you just don't get it, you just got to keep looking at it and maybe just even flipped. Like, so originally it was like this, and then it wasn't looking like the pattern at all because the shapes appear wrong. So what I had to do is I had to flip them the other way, and then I can see it. Okay, and so then here would be then the side edging, how it's going up and over, and because it's a side edging, this is going to be left open. So eventually you're going to have to come around the outside of it to do just a border, but you just originally just keep going and putting things together just like you see here. And once you have the right sides that you know about, then you can just take out those stitch markers as well. So have a lot of patience with this. Again, if you want to sew things together, then you can decide for yourself. Because it is a triangle, it's a little bit of a mind screw on how it's coming together, but once you understand it, it's going to get a lot easier for you. So don't give up on yourself, and let's move on. So let's just cover the border really quickly. So on the points, if there's any points that exist, and you can see that this is a top part here, this is left open, you're just going to start off with the corner with the right side facing up, and you are going to apply then, so that's a standing single crochet. So you'll apply 3 single crochets into each of those corners when it's a point like that to allow it to turn. So then you are going to do 1 single crochet in each one of the stitches until you get to where they join here. So this should be the same color of the claret. Okay, so if you happen to have the other color on the outside of the border, which you will have, then it'll just be a slight line when you're crossing over that. So this blanket really does have the 3-dimensional look to it when all is said and done. So I'm thinking just by putting this thing together, you should get all the ribbons. You can let me know how you feel about that in the comments. But don't give up on yourself. Just keep trying to persevere. Okay, so you're going to come all the way to the one just before, okay, and then one after, and you're going to do a 2 together spanning across the 2. And that will keep it together. And then you're just going to go up on the opposite side. So if it's a point, you're putting in 3 single crochets into the same one to turn, and if it's an indentation, then you're just putting 2 together single crochet to make up for that indentation going in. Okay, and so you're just going to trace your whole blanket like that, and this is really quite something, this particular blanket. Again, I believe it's a showstopper, and so there were the basic steps on how to do the motif and then how to do the flat stitch join. I think, honestly speaking, for myself, I would probably think about joining those with a tapestry needle instead. It takes more time, but I would think to myself that it might be easier for me to do it, for me to visualize, because I lack that visualization. So don't be afraid to be able to change it. If you want to single crochet it together, you could probably do that. It will change the look, but just stick with what you know and be comfortable with what you decide. That's it for now. We hope you enjoy.